Listen up. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to the podcast participants, and not to any participant's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. You know, for fun. So lighten up and enjoy. Oh, hello everyone. Are you here for fun? Are you here to be light? Are you here to enjoy? Well, then you're at the right podcast. This is the Soft Serve Podcast. I am your host, Sawtooth Frank. On the show this week, we're going to give a quick Fate of the Nation report, and there will be no Donald Trump sound drops. I'm going to give you an update on my swimming pool goldfish. I'm going to talk about some good things that have happened in the month of May, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown on some of the TV, movies, and music that I've been into lately. So, we'll get into all of that right after the intro music.
The Soft Serve Podcast.
Creamy, delicious ideas without the creepy truck. Oh no, I played the wrong intro music again. This is the old intro music that I play when Stomping Jen is on the show. But I don't have a co-host this week, it's just me. And I accidentally played the wrong intro music. Well, if you are a long-time listener, you will know that was the intro music that I play when my former always co-host, now a sometimes co-host, appears on the show. The great, the wonderful, Stomping Jen.
I don't want to be an immortal lobster.
But she's not here this week. So, well, again, I'm Sawtooth Frank. I'm your host. This is the Soft Serve Podcast, and it's been 2 weeks since we've done a show, because we have moved to a every other week schedule, because I am lazy and don't like to do the work of a podcast. But I'm here now, so let's enjoy it while we have me, shall we? Please enjoy me. I want to be enjoyed. I want to be listened to. So, okay, I talked about doing a Fate of the Nation report. That's my new segment where I talk about stuff that I think is important in relation to the state of our country. And in case you didn't know, nation is another word for country. Therefore, my State of the Nation report. Actually, that's Fate of the Nation report. I'm wrong. I don't even know what report I'm giving. Imagine that. That's the benefit of having a co-host, by the way, is when you fuck up and make mistakes, you have somebody around to correct you. I don't have a co-host, so on the show this week, so I made a mistake. I said we're doing a State of the Nation report. I meant to say we're doing a Fate of the Nation report. Honestly, I don't think stuff's going so well. So if you've been paying attention, recently, just a couple days ago, I think, there was another attempted assassination of Donald Trump at the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. What is the White House Correspondents' Dinner, you may ask? Well, that's an annual dinner of people who report on the White House. So all of the members of the press attend, and there's usually a comedian host who roasts the attendees and the guest of honor, who, until Donald Trump, was usually the President of the United States. And Donald Trump has not attended a White House Correspondents' Dinner since, God, when was it? 2011, I believe? 2011. Yeah. And at that dinner, President Obama was there and was President of the United States, obviously. And something happened at that White House Correspondents' Dinner. President Obama took a few moments and roasted Donald Trump and basically told joke after joke, humiliating Donald Trump. And part of the humiliation was President Obama making statements about how Donald Trump would never be president. And Trump sat there and he took it and he smirked and he shrugged, but he was clearly really angry. And clearly President Obama lit a deep fire of rage within Donald Trump at that 2011 White House Correspondents' Dinner. And we all know what happened after that. Donald Trump ran for president, and he won twice, and he's our president now. So now that Trump has begun, in my opinion, to take steps to begin to consolidate and control national media through mergers at the corporate level by friends of his who own media companies, and by filing lawsuits against media companies. It's my thinking that Donald Trump was feeling comfortable enough to attend a White House Correspondents' Dinner. Again, the first one that he's been at since 2011. And he made sure there wasn't going to be a comedian hosting the dinner. So not somebody there who would tell jokes about him and humiliate him, because we all know Trump has very thin skin. The dinner didn't happen because right after it started, excuse me, again, I just ate dinner and I'm trying to record this in a brief amount of time that I have alone, and my throat is going crazy. So I'm going to take a sip of water. Hold on. Hopefully that helps. And I don't have to keep clearing my throat. Where was I? So right after the dinner started, a person who was staying at the hotel, what's his name? I have it written here. Well, I don't have it written here, and I don't think it's particularly important, but a person who you can go Google in the media attempted to storm the main room that Donald Trump and almost his entire cabinet was in. You know, the big hall where they hold the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And this person had a gun and a bunch of knives, and he stormed past the security in the event and tried to get into the main hall, and I think fired some shots or attempted to fire some shots. I'm not really clear. You can go read the reporting on this. But that person was subdued and taken down. I think there was a police officer or a FBI agent or somebody was shot in the process, but not fatally. They survived and were released from the hospital the same evening, I believe. So fortunately, nobody was killed. But Trump immediately canceled the White House Correspondents' Dinner after this happened, claimed that the FBI told him he had to, or the national security folks, I don't remember which, but he did say somebody told him that they had to cancel the event. And he held a little press conference afterwards. And in that press conference, Trump used the storming of the White House Correspondents' Dinner by a gunman as an excuse to claim that's why we need a $200 to $400 million ballroom built on the White House. So he took this horrible event, which honestly, we should be scrutinizing the security apparatus around Trump that they allowed this to happen. But instead of doing that, which I think he should have done privately, right, address those concerns, but instead of doing that, Trump, like he often does, took a tragedy or potential tragedy and twisted it to suit his own needs and his own narrative. Then on, I don't know, when was that? Did that happen on a Saturday, I think? The White House Correspondents' Dinner? I'm not sure. But anyways, right afterwards, Trump did an interview with 60 Minutes. And the reporter, a woman named Norah O'Donnell, was quoting from the so-called attempted assassin's manifesto. And so you got to picture this. Norah O'Donnell is sitting in a chair across from Trump, who is also sitting in a chair, hunched over, glaring in a menacing way at Norah O'Donnell. And she reads this quote from the gunman's manifesto, which I'm going to read to you now. And that is, quote, "I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes." End quote. Now, Trump, who I said looked like he was sort of sitting there glowering before that, became, in my opinion, nearly apoplectic. Like a flash of anger came across his face. And he started berating Norah O'Donnell. He told her that she was horrible and disgraceful. And after he was done insulting her, in a amazing reverse turnaround, Norah O'Donnell looked at Trump and she said very calmly, "Oh, do you think he was referring to you?" And Trump almost fell out of his chair. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then he went on to berate her and insult her some more, and then told her they could finish the interview. But it was absolutely brilliant. Great move, and actually gives me some hope. I think my understanding is one of Trump's besties bought the network that 60 Minutes is on, and there's a woman running CBS News Division in 60 Minutes who is a Trump acolyte. So the fact that they allowed this to air is pretty impressive, because it made Trump look like the petulant giant man baby that he is. So anyways, that is the White House Correspondents' Dinner fiasco. Let's see, what else is going on in our nation? The Iran war is still happening. As of this recording, there's been no peace settlement. Oil and gas prices continue to rise. And the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, or restricted, sort of at best. So, I don't know how many weeks it's been. 8 weeks, more. What, Trump claimed was going to be a week-long war. Maybe he said a couple of weeks. I don't know exactly, but doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. All right, so there you go. That's your very brief Fate of the Nation report. And folks, the fate of the nation is we're fucking doomed. It doesn't look good. Okay? All right. So let's move on. I'm going to give you an update on my swimming pool goldfish. In case you're a new listener, here's the TLDR. Last year, so in the late spring of 2025, my daughter, Space Unicorn, and I, sort of on a lark, threw 30 small feeder-sized goldfish into our currently unused above-ground swimming pool. And I was under the impression that these fish were going to die relatively quickly, but that's not the case. A year later, after an incredibly brutal winter, every single fish has survived. They are quadruple to 5 times the size that they were when I put them in there, and now I have to take care of these fuckers. Last summer, I built a filtration system to filter the water and ran it all summer long, but it did a lot of damage to our electric bill. So Stomping Jen sort of said, please don't do that again. So I bought a bunch of solar-powered equipment to run the pump and to run the air pump that has these little air stones that put oxygen into the filter and into the pool. So the water pump is solar too. So I'm in the process of hooking all of that stuff up right now. And, I was speculating on the last podcast about my sort of moral commitment that I have to these fish. I'm the one who bought them. I put them in the pool. I gave them a filter for their water last summer. I fed them, and sort of, my hope that they would just die over the winter didn't materialize. And so I've decided that I've made the decision. I have a moral obligation to take care of these fish. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm spending a little money on this solar water pump, this solar air pump to keep these critters happy and healthy. And, one of the things they do is they eat the mosquito larvae out of the unused pool. So hopefully they'll keep the mosquito population down. So that's it. That's the update on the goldfish. What else is going on? An update on my health. So 3 weeks ago, I decided I was going to stop eating ultra-processed food and that I was going to stop snacking at night. Despite my episode, a couple of months ago, where I talked about how I was feeling more comfortable with my expanding waistline and the fact that I had to move to elastic waistband pants. I'm not really being honest with myself. I don't feel great about that. So, and part of my problem is that I snack at night. Some of that is driven by the fact that when I stopped drinking alcohol, I wanted something else to fill the oral fixation that I had developed by drinking every night and, watching TV. So obviously, if you sit there and you eat chips and Takis and other stuff, you're going to put on a little weight. So I decided a couple of weeks ago, enough is enough. I got to get control of this habit and stop the snacking at night. So that's what I've done. And, it's already paying off dividends. It's really hard. I have to say that. It's been harder than quitting drinking was, believe it or not. I think because maybe there isn't the implied stigma with eating chips and crackers and all of that other shit. Maybe it's easier to convince yourself that it's okay juxtaposed to stopping drinking alcohol. Like, yeah, no, I'm just eating a couple of chips. Well, what was I saying? Yeah, so it's been harder. It's been a harder kind of addiction or compulsion to break than drinking was. But I think I'm kind of like over the mental hump at this point. Like, I'm not really craving snack foods at night anymore, or craving the chips and that kind of thing. I'm gonna try to keep it up throughout the summer, and gonna try to remain very active. I am a pretty active person. I exercise every day, and if I don't go to the gym, I walk 3.5 miles. So, that being a relatively active person is probably the only reason I'm not 500 pounds versus the 200 and some change that I am. So, but, since I started this, I don't know if I said this or not, but I'll say it anyways again. I've lost about 8 pounds over 3 weeks. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. So I'm going to try to keep it up. And again, I'm drinking plenty of water and trying to tell myself, that these ultra processed foods, they really are not good for you. They are addictive. I think I was addicted to them. And that's one thing that, I hate to say it, that Robert F. Kennedy, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, I think. Is that Secretary of Health? I don't fucking know what title he is, but I think he was right about that. We shouldn't be eating these ultra-processed foods, because they're full of chemicals and they're engineered to be addictive. So I'm here to make America healthy again. Maha is what I like to say. So instead of eating chips or highly processed foods, you should eat an apple or carrots or vegetables or ferments like yogurt and kimchi. So, thank you, Sawtooth Frank, for promoting my Mahad agenda and telling everybody about your journey of stopping eating ultra-processed foods and unhealthy snacks at night. Thank you. Well, Secretary Kennedy, I did not know you were going to appear on my show, so thank you. I appreciate those kind words, and come back again, please. Okay, I'll just barge in whenever I want to, I guess. Thank you, Sawtooth, again. You're a good man, and I hope you're able to keep not eating all of those unhealthy foods. Okay, Senator. I mean, you weren't a senator. Secretary Kennedy. You're welcome. Bye-bye. Bye now. Hey, bye now is my thing. You can't say that. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you say bye now. What, you don't listen to my podcast? I say that at the end of every episode. No, I've never listened to your show before. It's not what I would consider a healthy listening. It's full of profanity and anti-Trump sentiments. So it's not what I would call healthy entertainment. But since you're promoting my agenda, I would come on your podcast and talk to you. But you didn't know I was going to be here. That's true. Well, again, drop in anytime you want. I don't know how you did this, but feel free to come back, okay? And don't say bye now. Okay. See you later. All right, that's better. Okay, there he goes. Well, I did not know that Secretary Kennedy was going to somehow barge into our podcast episode this week. I don't know how he did it, whether it was through the CIA or the FBI. Maybe Kash Patel made it happen. If he was sober enough, I don't know. But at any rate, that's my story with eating healthier, okay? One of the things I wanted to talk about is I feel like I've been focusing on a lot of negative stuff in relation to spring in particular. I did a whole episode on how dangerous and deadly spring is. I think the last episode I did, the one before this, I gave some examples of horrible stuff that has happened in May. It's gotta be May. So I was thinking, Sawtooth, you're being way too negative. Why don't we do something positive? Why don't we say something positive about spring? So I started Googling, well, okay, it's going to be May soon. So what good things have happened in May, the month of May? Like, what are some good things historically that have happened? And I was pretty surprised. It's not all gloom and doom. Some good stuff has happened in the month of May. So I'm going to tell you about it. Okay? I'm going to break this into a couple of categories. The first one is global peace and human rights. So here's a big one. On May 8th, 1945, something happened called VE Day. VE Day. Not VD Day. Not Venereal Disease Day. VE Day. Now, I don't know what VE stands for, but this was the day that Nazi Germany signed an unconditional surrender, effectively ending World War II in Europe, and it set off, worldwide global celebrations. That was VE Day. And I wondered, that might even be the day of that famous photograph of a soldier or a sailor kissing a woman in Times Square, I think, possibly. That might be VE Day. Let's see. Jumping forward in time, on May 10th, 1994, the inauguration of Nelson Mandela. That's pretty awesome. That was following South Africa's first multiracial elections after the end of apartheid. Mandela was sworn in as the nation's first black president. That's pretty fucking awesome. I didn't know that happened in May. Let's see, May 17th, 1954, so jumping back in our time machine, there was the Brown v. Board of Education decision, and that's when the U.S. Supreme Court unanimously ruled that racial segregation in public schools was unconstitutional and making that illegal, which became a landmark victory in the civil rights movement. And we all know You don't have to Google too deeply, to see the images of black students being escorted under protection by the police and the National Guard into schools all over the country. Let's see what else happened. May 28th, 1961, Amnesty International was founded. So that's when lawyer Peter Benison, he launched a campaign to free prisoners of conscience, which grew into one of the world's largest human rights organizations. So Amnesty International is a group that advocates for political prisoners across the world. Okay? All right, let's go to our next category, scientific and exploration milestones, right? So a lot of cool fucking stuff happened in the month of May. Let's see, May 14th, 1796. So we're going way back in time here in our time machine. The smallpox vaccine was invented. Dr. Edward Jenner performed the first vaccination ever, which led to the eventual eradication of smallpox and saving millions upon millions of lives. On May 5th, 1961, we had the first American in space. Alan Shepard piloted the Freedom 7 on a suborbital flight, marking a major success for the U.S. space program. I don't know, is suborbital? Is that space? I don't fucking know. But it would be what? Just 8 short years later, we would have human beings on the moon. That's pretty cool. Let's see. On May 6th, 1954, there was the Impossible Mile achievement. That's when some dude named Roger Bannister became the first person to run a mile in under 4 minutes, shattering the long-held belief that it was physically impossible. That's fucking crazy. I can't even imagine running a mile under 4 minutes. It takes me 12 minutes to run a mile now. No, that's not true. It takes me 10 minutes and 34 seconds to run a mile. Anyways, I just recently saw something. I read something about a robot ran a half marathon in record time, shattering human records. So we better be careful. I bet that fucking robot could run a mile faster than any human being has ever run a mile. That's crazy. We better be careful. We're approaching Terminator territory here. All right, what else happened in May? May 21st, 1927, there was a solo Atlantic flight. So somebody, you know this name, Charles Lindbergh, landed in Paris after completing the first solo nonstop transatlantic flight, becoming a global hero. And nowadays, we take flying across the Atlantic and other oceans for granted. We just fucking hop on planes and 6 hours later, we're over, in Europe, if you're flying from the East Coast. It's bananas. Let's see, what are some other milestones that happened in May? So these are cultural and social milestones. And May 21st, 1881, so again, going way back in history, the American Red Cross was founded. A person, I'm assuming a woman, named Clara Barton established the organization to provide disaster relief and nursing support. 1881, would that have been during the Civil War? I have no clue. If you know, let me know. I don't know. May Day was established I don't have a year for that, but May Day, May 1st is May Day, which is now associated with International Workers' Day, which is a recognition of the fight for labor rights, like the 8-hour workday. But May Day actually originated as an ancient festival celebrating the spring and fertility, right? We talked about this on my episode about how horrible spring is that when spring comes around, all the animals and stuff start fucking and having babies. That's wild. May Day, I didn't know that was about celebrating spring infertility. Let's see, May 27th, 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge opened. And that's, you all know the Golden Gate Bridge, right? That's, I think, over there in San Francisco. And roughly, I think something like 200,000 people a day. No, I'm reading this wrong. Roughly 200,000 people celebrated the grand opening by walking across the bridge when it first opened on May 27th, 1937. I wonder how many people drive across the bridge every day now. It's got to be a lot. All that traffic over there in the Bay Area in San Francisco. Let's Google that. I'm curious now. Let's find out. How I'm doing this with one hand. Many people drive across the... You're pulling your hair out, aren't you? Golden Gate Bridge a day. Okay, here we go. Let's find this information. Sorry, that was probably painful to listen to. Okay, approximately 112,000 vehicles a day drive across the Golden Gate Bridge, with roughly 39 million vehicles crossing annually. Imagine that. I bet the people who opened the bridge in 1937 didn't even imagine that 39 million people a year would cross the bridge. That's nuts. We can't imagine that kind of thing, right? It's hard to think about with any kind of fidelity what the future is going to be like. I bet those people couldn't either. All right, well, that's my little summary of good things that happened in the month of May. Okay, so despite my previous podcasts about how awful spring is and all the terrible things that happened in the month of April, you can look forward to May. Good things happened in May. And I hope good things will happen to you this May. It's gotta be May. All right? Okay. This is going to be a short podcast this week, folks. You may not have noticed, or you may have noticed, I've been interrupted many, many times while trying to record this. But that's just the way it goes. Wah. All right, so what am I watching on TV? Let me tell you about that. I've been watching old seasons of the show Alone. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but the basic premise is they take 10 people, they drop them in a remote wilderness, give them a bunch of cameras, and they have to survive on their own. And I'm assuming, the producers drop them off fresh batteries, they give the producers the footage, and it's a really compelling show. It's fascinating getting to watch 10 people try to survive completely on their own. And the way you win is you have to outlast everybody else. And the way everybody else gets out of the competition is they either quit, right? On the show, they call it tapping out. So they either tap out or they get medically evacuated because the people, they lose so much weight that when the regular medical checks happen, the doctors are like, it's not safe for you to be here anymore, so you have to leave. So I love this show, and I've been watching season after season of it. I typically binge watch it when I'm alone. So I'm watching Alone. I am also watching Daredevil, Born Again Season 2 on Disney+, which is a great show. When I was a kid, Daredevil was my favorite comic book hero. I fucking loved him. Love his costume. I like his powers. So he's blind, and he has like heightened senses. So heightened hearing, heightened touch, and you know, he kind of sees like with echolocation. He's really cool. And he's like a street level character, like Spider-Man, and he's operates within the Hell's Kitchen section of New York. Anyways, I love Daredevil. So the show has been really good this season. And Vincent D'Onofrio plays the main villain, Kingpin. He does a really good job. Let's see, we're watching the final season of The Boys on Amazon Prime, I think, is where that one is. And that's been really good because they are really treating this like a final season, and they're killing off main characters left and right. It's pretty awesome. Let's see, another show we just started watching, which I really like, is called Margot's Got Money Troubles. Sorry, I was struggling with that apostrophe. That's a really fun show. It's about this young woman who has sort of a disinterested mother and an absent father. And she ends up getting pregnant. She's broke, and the show is about her trying to make it work. I forget who plays the main character, Margot, but the father is played by Nick Offerman, and he's really good in it. If you like Nick Offerman, I always liked him. He's got like such wide range. He's so good. It's weird. I never watched Parks and Rec, the show he got famous for. Like, I was never into that. But he's really, really good on Margot's Got Money Troubles. Okay, that's TV that's worth mentioning. Movies. We've seen a bunch of movies lately since doing the podcast. I don't know if I told you about these two. I can't remember. Exit 8 and Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I think I did tell you about these. Exit 8 I liked very much. Lee Cronin's The Mummy I did not like. I thought it was terrible. I fell asleep during that one. That's always the sign that a movie is not good for me, is I fall asleep in it. It doesn't hold my attention. Whereas Exit 8, which is, I think it's a Japanese movie, or it was a Korean movie, but it's set in Japan. I don't know which one, but anyways, it follows this guy who gets trapped in a subway station, basically, and it's based on a video game. It's really, really good. Let's see, other movies I've seen recently was a movie on Apple TV called Outcome. That stars Keanu Reeves, and it sort of follows his character, who is a famous actor and a once beloved actor who fell into drug addiction, and it follows him coming out of a 5-year recovery, totally sober, and sort of on his making amends rounds to his friends, families, and colleagues. And Keanu Reeves plays the main character, and he was really, really good in it. I really, really enjoyed it. And Jonah Hill is sort of the co-lead. And he plays this like super obnoxious lawyer who's helping Keanu Reeves' character deal with a crisis that emerges while he's on his apology tour. Good movie, though. I highly recommend it on Apple TV. Jesus Christ. My fucking phone's ringing again. Hold on. Okay, and we're back. Fucking interrupted once again. I was about to tell you about a movie called Joyride. Isn't this fun? Don't you love listening to a podcast where the host is constantly fucking interrupted? It's awesome. Joyride was a really funny movie. I think that was on Netflix. So basically, it's a kind of a gross out comedy. I was going to say rom-com, but it's not romantic at all. It's a gross out comedy starring these 4 Asian women who were, it centers around this one woman who was adopted by American parents and due to some business circumstances needs to find her adoptive birth mother in China. And she ends up going overseas to China to find her adoptive birth mother with these 3 friends of hers. And chaos ensues, obviously. But it's a absolutely hilarious but incredibly sexually explicit movie. So be forewarned. Warned, not warned. I don't know why I can't speak tonight. Maybe it's because I'm getting constantly interrupted. It's throwing me off my rhythm. Not that I have any kind of rhythm to begin with, but you know. And then finally, Marty Supreme. I have not wanted to watch this movie because I heard lots of bad stuff about it. I heard that the character of Marty was, how do I say this? Irredeemable, obnoxious, unlikable, despicable, pick your word. And I was like, well, why the fuck would I want to watch a movie about a character like that? But I will tell you, it is maybe the best movie of last year, of 2025. I really enjoyed this movie. And I disagree with the assessment by many critics of the character of Marty Mauser, who is an aspiring table tennis champion. And I don't want to go too much into spoilers about this, except to say, I think Marty, to the extent that he is an unlikable... Oh, there I go, getting interrupted again. My fucking watch is going off now. To the extent that Marty is an unlikable and despicable character, I think a lot of that is in part due to the people around him who, in my mind, are more unlikable and more despicable than Marty. And he is just adapting to his circumstances to survive. There's that old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And I think Marty's forced in a lot of ways to do things that people see as being despicable and irredeemable because those are the role models he had. And he's put in circumstances that require that behavior. And the end of the movie is very, very touching, and in my mind shores up and reinforces what I'm saying about his character. So I don't want to spoil it, but anyways, Marty Supreme, highly recommend it. Loved that movie. And I think Timothy Chalamet, or as Adam Sandler likes to say, Chalamet, was absolutely robbed. He should have got an Oscar for that role. So, anyways. Okay. And for music, I am not listening to any new music. Nothing. Not one new artist or one new song have I listened to since I last spoken to you all. So there you go. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for the show. It's been 2 weeks. You've been patient, and I reward you with a show during which I am constantly, repeatedly interrupted and distracted and have given you a shitty show. So I apologize. But it's what you got. I'm not re-recording this. I'm sorry. I cannot do it. You're going to have to accept that this was your show. Okay? I'm sorry. That's what we got. Okay, folks. If you don't know, okay, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, on Instagram. We have a Substack. Sometimes I write and publish things there and then read them on the podcast. If you're somebody who likes to read stuff that was intended initially to be written, you can go on our Substack. Okay? You can also send me feedback, okay, by email at softservepodcast@gmail.com. You can send feedback through direct messages on Facebook and Instagram. Okay? You can send a fucking owl with a letter attached to its foot, like in Harry Potter. Okay? However you want to send me a message, you can do it. And I have to say, I love getting messages. One of our listeners, a longtime listener and a guest on the show, our good friend and the amazing poet Joshua Michael Stewart, he sent me some very nice words in a direct message. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I want to say it's nice when somebody says a nice thing about you. And like I've said in the past, this podcast is not monetized. We make no money off of it. I've never wanted to make money off of it. I've turned down sponsorship offers and inquiries because I don't want to be beholden to the man. Right? So, in the absence of money, in the absence of financial compensation, man, a kind word is sometimes nice to hear. That's all I'm saying. So if you like the show, if you're a regular listener and you want to drop me a kind word, they are much appreciated. Right? They help put the gas in my engine to keep this little car going. All right? So that's it, folks. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. They'll blow by. I'll do nothing in those 2 weeks. I will not make good use of it. I will once again scramble at the last minute to put together a show for you. That's just the way it's going to be. And I will say, it's taking the extra week off and sort of stepping outside of the weekly grind makes it a little harder for me to do the show. It's like I sometimes feel like I want to quit it again, but I'm not going to quit it. I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit the microphones for you, okay? All right, folks. That's it. That's all I got to say. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, I say to you all the thing I say to you at the end of every show. Bye now.
This world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility. That all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources, scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road.